Thanks for the support as a channel member, Jonathan Scatoff. I'm not an expert, but I think when the media bills an upcoming match as El SACKICO, I don't think that bodes well. Hello and welcome to Club 4, part 38 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have the final two games of the season, and hopefully, if we can make it that far, our final two games at Tottenham. There is a chance I'm going to get fired, though. As mentioned before, the media are talking of El SACKICO. There we go. El SACKICO approaches for Chapman and Solskjaer. We're 5th and 6th in the Premier League. We were both supposed to be challenging for the title, and it looks like both could miss out on even a Champions League qualification spot. If either of us lose, we're sacked. There's still a chance we'll get sacked if we win, because we've still got to go. I think I've got to get into that Champions League spot to save my job. Man City can't, so I'm surprised Solskjaer hasn't already been sacked. But if they manage to beat us, we'll both get sacked, I imagine. It'll be fine. This is a team we're putting out there, potentially for our final game in charge of Tottenham. It's Francisco in goal, a back four of Philippe, Rodriguez, Banfalvi and Jair. Vargas at the base of the midfield. Gravenberch and Carter ahead of him. Rott behind George and Fernando up front. Ridiculously, Rott has just won Premier League Player of the Month. I just got runner-up in Premier League Manager of the Month, and I could still get sacked. All because George missed a penalty to get knocked out of the Champions League. Oh, no. Right. What are we going to say? What are we going to say? A team's... See, that's not true. Man City have lost 3 of their last 5 games. I expect you to pile on the misery. I do expect us to pile on the misery because we are, in the league, unbeaten for a long time. It's been we're probably into double figures for games unbeaten in the league. And unfortunately, there's been quite a few draws in there. But Gravenberch, less than 2 minutes on the clock, puts us 1-0 up. If anyone other than him wins Player of the Season, there is no justice in the world. A 13th goal of the season for him. While everyone around him is crumbling, he's stepped up to become a real world-class central midfield player. And I do think he is an example of the hope that there is in the future for Tottenham, because I think what I've probably done is got rid of too many of the old men, and it's probably too young a team, and that's why we've bottled it this year. But Gravenberch, I think he's now 27, 28. As some of the others around him start to get to a similar sort of age, they're hopefully going to leap forward the way he does as well. And I do expect Tottenham... Jair's won a penalty there, I think. I do expect Tottenham to win the Premier League several times in the next 2 or 3 years, whether I'm manager or not. I don't want to get sacked. George steps up to take the penalty to put us 2-0 up inside 14 minutes. I mean, George doesn't miss penalties. We'll be fine. What's the worst that could happen here? Come on, just score the penalty. For goodness sake, score the penalty. Why are you taking so long? He scores this penalty. Why this one? I would have rather you scored the other one. If we'd have been in the Champions League semi-final right now, I don't think there'd be a discussion about whether or not I should still have a job. I think I'd just have a job because we'd be winning the Champions League. But oh no, he can only score penalties against Manchester City, who, by the way, might not even qualify for the Europa League. If Newcastle win both of their last 2 games, we beat City here and then City lose again. Imagine Manchester City finishing 7th and not even getting into the Europa League. That kind of becomes quite a tempting job for me to take on if it comes to it, because they're going to have oodles of money to spend. But it's a very similar situation to what it was when I arrived at Tottenham, in that it's a load of old men and it's going to need a complete rebuild. And I don't know that I'm up for another complete rebuild. I kind of want to take 4 or 5 of my best players from here and plonk them down into a new club, along with a couple of old pros. Imagine taking this Man City side, keeping Mbappe around for another year or 2, but complementing him with the likes of Gravenberch and Banfalvi and Jair. And, I mean, who else would I take? Vargas and Vermonti. And maybe even Carter for a little bit of English in there. Gravenberch has made it 3-0. A 14th goal of the season for him. We ain't getting sacked today, boys and girls. We're having a lovely time. And hopefully we can carry that lovely time on into that final game of the season, save my job, qualify for the Champions League, and then see what summer brings. I think, and this is dependent on real world situation stuff, but at the moment I'm hoping to do the transfer window /job hunt live I can't guarantee it just yet because I'm recording this video on Monday afternoon. So if we get into Tuesday and it looks like there's a chance that I might not be available Wednesday afternoon to do the live stream, then I'll probably just pre-record it just to make sure it definitely goes out. Schools and stuff. You know what's going on in the real world at the moment. If you're watching this in the future, look at the date of the video. I can't explain why I might not be able to stream, but I might not be able to stream. So we might have to pre-record it, but I'm thinking it'll be fun to do it live, especially if there is a job hunt. We can take some of your thoughts on board as well. But the one thing I want to avoid is being unemployed, whether that's because I've been sacked or I'm not just going to resign and walk out. I will apply for jobs at other clubs if they're big clubs, but I'm not going to resign because I don't want to be unemployed, because I've done the whole unemployed thing in Football Manager before, and especially for somebody like me who's never actually won a trophy. I think we're 10 years into this save and I've not actually won anything. I think getting the Tottenham job was something I got partly because I got the England job earlier than expected and it gave me a managerial boost, and we were overperforming at Barnsley, but we certainly haven't overperformed in our 4 years at Tottenham. And will another big club want to take a risk on me? Have I been here long enough to build my reputation up high enough to be considered in that top league of managers? I certainly was last summer when I was linked with the Man United and the Man City jobs, but turned them both down. But this year we've had a season of huge underperformance. There's no guarantee that I'm going to be offered any top tier jobs, and I'm not going to walk out on Tottenham to go and do another mid-table project in the Bundesliga or La Liga or Serie A. I'm going for a massive club, and if I don't get a massive club, I'll stay here and not leave until they sack me. Gravenberch to Rott and back to Rodriguez. Rodriguez finds Philippe. Because, like I say, I'm convinced this team will come good. And this team has got some of the best young players around, and it will be a great side. But this year was just a year too early, I guess. Despite bringing Harry Kane back, who I still maintain might have been part of the problem. But he's retiring in the summer. He's already got a job in place to take over as a youth coach for us. So he's going to start working his way through the system and build him up to be the next manager in 2 or 3 years when I move on then, maybe. Who knows? George, back to Philippe. Philippe to George again. George, who really has emerged. Has he been offside? He's offside there, isn't he? But he's emerged as a real top player for us again this year. I think Fernando and George is probably my strike partnership now. Carlos dropping down the pecking order, and we'll drop further. And because we've got Vance, we've got Rosso, we've got other options. I think the days of Carlos, unless he does a Mick Powell over the summer, Carlos might be the one out the door, because we probably still do have one too many strikers. Right, we're going to bring Vermonti on for Vargas. We're going to bring Rosso on for Fernando and stick George a little bit further forward and do that for these last 20 minutes or so. Drop a little bit of praise as well, because we have played very well. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is getting sacked here. Kawamata, of course, our former man playing for Manchester City. Didn't expect him to get as much game time as he's apparently getting. Great save from Francisco there. He's got to be one that I'm looking to replace in the summer if we do stick around, because I think that's the one area where we don't have a real world-class player. I think we've got a lot of world-class players in the rest of the squad. World-class players and wonder kids is what we've got everywhere, apart from in goal. And I wonder if in some of these tight matches, because that's the thing, Chelsea, Man United, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, these teams aren't thrashing us. We're losing them by narrow margins here and there. If we just had a better goalkeeper, would some of those results have gone the other way, and would our season look very, very different if they had? Sessegnon comes on for the last 10 minutes or so. I wonder how the season would have been different if he'd have stayed in the team, just as a player who's been here forever, an older, more experienced player. I think I might have gone a little too young. I think that's where it's gone wrong this year, and we won't make that mistake again. Q8 Wonder Kids coming in the summer. I know how it's going to work. I've been here before. Right, Sessegnon with the throw, finds Gravenberch, who of course is on a hat-trick, but misses out on the ball. City lumping it forward. They're in again here, and Francisco again makes a save. Francisco's had a very good game today, as I'm talking about replacing him again, which, to be fair, I've talked about replacing him ever since he signed. It took him 2 years to force past Pickford, and ever since he did, I've forever talked about replacing him, and he's never really let us down. He's just, I wonder if he's enough of a match winner as a goalkeeper. I think he's just a solid keeper, which is no bad thing to have in Football Manager. I've gone through entire series in the past and never managed to find a solid keeper, so to have one is lovely. But I want one like the fella we had at Sevilla last year, whose name I can't remember, who we had at Hamburg. He was Zielinski, was that his name? The backup keeper at Hamburg, who came with us to Sevilla and ended up the best goalkeeper in the world. I feel like a man like that would be a big difference maker in this squad. But we've got to find him, and that's a problem we keep having. Another one of the ones who got away has just scored against us. He's somebody we tried to sign back when we signed, I think it was back when we signed George. I think Florian Michel was the other one we were in for, but we couldn't afford him, so we got George instead. And there's his 23rd goal of the season. So he's outscored George, but I bet he's played an awful lot more games than George has. So I don't think we did too badly with that decision. But that is a good result. That should lead to Solskjaer getting sacked. It hasn't actually officially been announced yet. The comment section is going to have fun because that fella's knocking around the place again. And has he been sacked? Where do we go? If we go on to here, surely he's been sacked after that. They called it SACKICO, for goodness sake. Where do we go for news? It's there. Is it? No, there? There. Any news on him being sacked? Doesn't appear to be just yet. I guess they're clinging on until the end of the season, which seems a bit of a weird decision. But we'll go and play our final game of the year. Hopefully qualify for the Champions League and see where we end up from there. Final game of the season then, away against Brighton. We've made no changes because we played very well against Manchester City. We all watched the same game. Why would we change anything off of the back of that? But as with the previous game, we've got to win to get in the Champions League. And as the media keep telling me, we've got to win for me to keep my job. It is Champions League or the sack. So what are we going to say? I expect nothing but a win to keep our good run going. We are in incredible form. We are the form team in the Premier League. Arsenal dropping down to third, I've just noticed. They've managed to absolutely bottle that one and throw that away. Goodness me, it's bottle jobs all round in North London this season. And that shows how good our form has been, to be honest. We're now within 6 points of Arsenal, who at one point had like a 15-point lead over us. So we have been very good in this second half of the season. Undone by a late penalty miss against Real Madrid aside, we've been great. It was the first half of the season that let us down, probably because, once again, I fiddled too much, brought in too many players, and it took a little bit of a while to get our dynamics right. And plus, we had the injury to Vermonti early on, which was a problem at the time, and he's never really made it back into the team and become the force he was last year. He's more of a rotation option with Vargas now after the arrival of Carter. So I think I know where it went wrong, and just like at the end of last year, if this season had been 10 games longer, last year it was 2 games longer, I think I said, but I do think, give us another 10 games, we start catching people up. Jair, very, very close to opening the scoring early on. It looks like Liverpool have gone ahead in their game, so it doesn't matter how good our form has been the second half of this season. If we don't grab a goal and grab a win, I'm getting fired, and whoever takes over is going to be in the Europa League, and they're going to have to enjoy Thursday nights where we had to hang out for a couple of years early on in my Tottenham reign. Philippe with the throw finds Gravenberch back to Philippe again, who plays it back to Rodriguez, who's going to look up and try and get something going in this midfield. Look at him skipping past him, man. That's our centre-back. We've got some very good players. Gravenberch now looking to set up the shot. He's got space, he shoots, and it's a decent save by the Brighton keeper. But looking at those stats, once again, we've been the better team, but we just need to break that deadlock, and we haven't yet. Gravenberch with the corner now, can't quite find a Spurs shot, but there's Fernando with an absolutely stunning goal. We might have just got goal of the season on the final day because that was ridiculous. My word, let's look at that from the other angle. Cross comes in from the corner, Rock gives it to Fernando, and he just walloped that into the underside of the crossbar, bounces down over the line. What a goal. 1-0 to Spurs, and as it stands, we're back up into those Champions League qualification spots and only 5 points behind both Arsenal and Manchester United. So, like I say, we're catching these teams up. Don't get complacent. Let's grab a second goal, because what I don't want is yet another example of last-minute nonsense. Last-minute nonsense will upset me greatly, and it's affected us a lot recently in both series, so let's not have any of that. Gravenberch with the corner. George is there, and George scores a 17th goal of the season for him, and he has been fantastic in this second half of the season. And I'm a little bit upset that Again, the marginal differences and learning where I've gone wrong. If I'd have dropped Carlos for him a little earlier, how different things might have been. Because he has been very much a part of this team through this long unbeaten run that we've had now. Initially for Fernando when he got injured, and he's just kept his place. Now Fernando's back alongside him. Jair's going to come off and Kameli's going to come on. We've barely seen anything of him since he signed. We're going to take off Rott and bring on, you know what, I'm going to stick Rosso in behind in the attacking midfield position because it's something he has been training for. And I think it will ultimately be his best position, but he's another one who came in, back off of his loan. Great hope, lots of hype. Can't believe I turned down all that money from Real Madrid for him because I've just not been able to find a way to squeeze him back into the team. And it might be that attacking midfield becomes the position that he makes his own. Because I'm still not happy with Rott and Gravenberch as my options in there. I think I do need to fix that problem this summer if I'm still here, because the other thing, of course, is there's no guarantee that even with a win, even with a Champions League spot, there's no guarantee that the board keep me in my job. They might decide that we were supposed to win the league this year and get to the Champions League semi-final. We've done neither. They might decide that there's a better option out there for them who can stop this perennial runners-up, missing out, fourth place, Spurs nonsense that's been going on for 20 years at this point. Oh, Kameli does well. He's trying to do a few Jair things out on the right-hand side, finds Gravenberch, and it's just over him. I think it was George, actually, who applied the final touch to that, probably taking it up over the bar from the initial Gravenberch shot. He's now picked up an injury right in the last minute. That's going to be a problem because that'll be one of those that costs him the whole of pre-season or something silly like that. But we have picked up the win. Give them a big round of applause. And now just double check that I'm not being sacked. I mean, they're giving me budgets. That suggests they're not sacking me. Confirmation, Chelsea have won the league. They beat Bournemouth 7-0 at one point this season. Gravenberch is not a long injury, so it doesn't matter. There's our proof we've qualified for the Champions League. Budgets. They've given me the biggest budget they've given me in a long time. Are they going to let me stick around and spend it, though? That's the big question. If we have a little look at the job security page, I am still showing as very insecure, as is Montella at Bayern, as is Solskjaer at Man City. I know he's insecure, but Barcelona is insecure as well. And these are all jobs that I would consider taking. They're probably the big ones. Bayern Munich or Barcelona. I would bite the arm off either of those if they came up. I don't really want to have to go to Manchester City, but if Spurs sack me and City offer me a job, I'm not going to turn it down. So we are going to see how things pan out on tomorrow's transfer special / job hunt, because ending the season on an E probably isn't the best thing for us. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos, and thank you very much for watching.